All right. This is awesome. This is the first time using Zoom meetings, so I'm really excited. This is Penny Sansevieri with Author Marketing Experts. Welcome to Ask Penny Anything. I have some of your questions that I know you sent over, and we have no limit, by the way, on how many people can join this session. So we used to have a limit of 25. Now we do not have any more limits on any of our on how many participants can join. And I'm just going to mute my phone. Hang on one second. All right, so you guys are all muted, so you know that make sure to, we'll unmute you at the end of the call. Make sure to pop your questions into the chat box. So let me start with the first one. How should I price my paperback and ebook KD from Bianca? How should I price my paperback and ebook KDP version to get some serious traction? Bianca, can you pop into the chat box if you can what genre that you're in? Because that makes actually a huge difference. So I can come back to that. Betty asked, would children's books work in black and white like Black Oyster? I would say that no, because it would be, children's books are very, and obviously depending on the age range. So you say children's books, but if you're talking about, let's say, older children. So if you're talking about teenagers, Harry Potter's illustrations in some cases were, some of the designs that came with some of these books were black and white. So there is an age range where you can get away with that, but I would say children's books. So the younger age range, really the color images are important. And I know that's expensive, so I don't know whether that was part of the reason why you asked that question. So Bianca came back and said it's fiction, magical realism. So Bianca, I don't know, how are your books priced now? What's the price point on your books right now? Because I typically would recommend that you look at some of the other pricing within your market and then see where that, just kind of find a happy medium with that. So for example, so you're $5.99 on Kindle. $5.99 on Kindle, depending on the length of the book and depending on how many other books you have out there, is maybe a tiny little bit high, but you do have some flexibility to drop it down to $2.99 or $3.99 and kind of play with that pricing a little bit. I have found that especially for new authors, people reading ebooks are very, very price sensitive. So just kind of, again, just keep that in mind. So you have 4 books out. Are they all priced the same? Are they all priced in the same? They're not. Okay, they're all across the board. Okay. I would say probably, if you really want to get some traction on your books, I would suggest dropping your prices drastically for a short period of time, or even rotating. Since you have 4 books, I would rotate the price drops on it. So in other words, drop one price for a week, and then maybe even advertise it if you decide that you want to do that. But that is potentially a good way to get some traction on those. So let's see. So I think Trisha asked, let me just look at this here. So Trisha asked, Amazon's merchandising arm, I want to develop a t-shirt along with a publication and begin to sign up for merch, but I don't have a company. I'm not sure how to go about it. I don't know how Amazon's merchandising arm works. However, whenever I've done merchandising, a lot of times I'll go onto like a site like Cafe Press or something and just start it there. I know that for anything that you sell on Amazon, obviously you have to have a reseller's account. The other thing too that you may want to consider, depending on how you're developing this product, is you may want to go onto Etsy too. Now, when I've had authors that have had merchandise, so coffee cups or t-shirts or whatever, they'll a lot of times put a link in the back of their book to their Etsy store or to their Amazon store or something like that. Or if you're just buying it on Amazon, right? So just make sure that the link is in the back of the book. Elena, if that didn't help you, pop into the chat box and let me know. I've never had I'm sorry, Trisha, I've never had I've never been a merchant on Amazon. I've just sold through, publishing. Elena asked, free promos. I'm about to launch a new title. If I go for the KDP direct, and offer a free download for 3 days. How do you capture those free downloaders? Um, so you are actually asking about KDP Select, not necessarily Direct. So Kindle Direct Publishing has two branches to it. It has KDP and KDP Select. So for KDP Select, you can do free downloads up to 5 days during the 90-day period that your book is in Select. So what I would suggest is first off, there's no way to when you're talking about capture those free downloaders, I'm assuming that you're talking about um, capturing them in terms of their email addresses. There's no real way to do that, um, except that you can put a letter in the back of the book to try and encourage them. And I talk a lot about this, and we have a lot on our blog too, to take a look at that there. But um, you can you can put a letter in the back of the book and encourage people to contact you, or give them some kind of a prize, or give them something that they can enter, or something along those lines. So Amazon doesn't share that information, which is really unfortunate, but that's kind of that's sort of what we have to deal with. So let me see let me see. um um Erica asked, do Amazon print and KDP categories have to match? Absolutely not. They do not have to match. That's a great question, by the way, because one of the things that I will often do when I'm optimizing a book on Amazon is I will look at the Kindle, the ebook categories, and I will select those, and those more often than not do not match the print, because Amazon has this whole deep dive on the KDP side where you will never even find these categories in print. So the answer to that is no, they do not have to match at all. So Kathleen asked, when we are going to bestseller on Amazon, do they count how many books or how many orders? So in other words, if someone went on my campaign and bought 50 books, does that count as 50 books? Oh, that's a great question. So what she's asking is, if you went on and bought 50 copies of your own book, does that count as 50 sales or one sale? It counts as one sale, and I'll tell you why. Because of the IP address. So Amazon got, many years ago, Amazon did not, Amazon didn't really realize that this is how people were tricking the system. So they were going in and they were buying thousands of copies of books, and essentially, getting up to be a bestseller. Now the system the reason I don't typically do the, hold on one second, let me see. Can you guys hear me now? Okay. Okay, the reason I don't typically, it may sound tinny and echoey, which is why I generally always use a headset, but problem with the headset, yes, it's my jack. It probably is, or it's the headset, or it's something really silly that I overlooked. All right, so let me go back to that question. Hold on one second, let me open this up because I know nobody heard the answer to that. Hang on one second because there's a lot of no sound. Okay, so I'm just going to re-answer Kathleen's question in terms of how many books that you needed to, if you buy 50 books, like, so for example, if I go on and I buy 50 copies of my own book, that only counts as one sale. So, and it's the Amazon algorithm. So in other words, or it's the Amazon, they track your IP addresses. So one IP address, one sale if you buy one book or you buy 5,000 books. Okay, so just as an FYI. All right, so let me go back up to hold on one second. Let me see what other questions we have. Bianca asked, what would be the best marketing strategy during the 5 or so free promo days on Kindle Select? Excellent, excellent question. So my suggestion is that you want to get out there and you promote it. And by the way, we have an ebook guide on our website. So how to promote your ebook, and in it, I list websites and I list hashtags and I list other fellow Kindle people that you can mention it to, that your book's free. But I would recommend, so you want to let your newsletter list know if you have one. Let your people know in social media. There are also a whole bunch of sites that you can advertise in terms of that you can advertise in to let them know about your free ebook promo. So I would really, really just do whatever you can to blast it out in as many places. I would not list it on just 5 places. I would list it, if you can, on 35 or 50 or whatever, because each of these ebook promo sites, some of them are paid, some of them are free, so you may want to kind of balance that with your budget. But each of these promo sites has a different reach. So just make sure that you've got enough juice going out there. I saw on a webinar about advertising on YouTube via Google AdWords. Do you think this form of advertising would be effective? I don't know, but I do know, so I've never done that. So we do Google AdWords. Sometimes we do Google AdWords just on Google search. I've never known for that to, YouTube is a great resource. So we use YouTube. I do educational videos. We're putting this video up on YouTube, but I've never used the AdWords. So I would say, if you have some really good videos, see first how well they do and whether or not you need to advertise, okay? So let me see what other questions we have. When putting in themes in place of keywords, how should I use those themes? Genre and themes work together, just the theme words. So I want to just explain really briefly what the themes are. So themes are only for fiction books, and they are basically search words. For example, for a romance book, you might have a theme of Highlander, okay? If your book features a Highlander, or second chances, or secret baby, or something like that. And if you go to Amazon, if you go to the Kindle store in the fiction, whether it's mystery or romance, whatever, you'll see down the left-hand side a list of protagonist and location and things like that. Those words need to be part of your keywords. So in other words, if you have if you're accessing your keywords on the back end and you're updating them, if you have a Highlander in your book, you should use Highlander in one of your keyword strings, if that makes sense. Okay, so the themes do matter. I also recommend using them in your book description, in fact. So whenever I'm optimizing a page for fiction,
I will, suggest the themes to the author and then also recommend that they update their book description to reflect that. Okay. So let me see what other questions we have. Okay. So if I give money to 20 friends, and 20 friends at different IP addresses, will that bump my listing over others listing my book? Possibly. I mean, you could certainly try it. I think it's going to take, but keep in mind that depending on your genre. So for example, if you're in the dieting or dating or relationship or romance genre, you're probably going to need to talk to 200 friends as opposed to 20. So, and again, Amazon realizes this, which is why they check the IP addresses, right? Here's the thing. I had a friend of mine actually do this at her job. So she said, well, I have 150 people working for me. So I put out an email and had them all buy the book. Well, but again, you're dealing, like some of them bought it at work. So, you're dealing with the same IP address issue, even if it's a different person. Okay. Do you have a checklist on what I need to do to move from final proof to launch and beyond? I do, and we're actually going to be sharing that because I have another book coming out, and I'm finalizing that checklist, but I do, and it's really extensive. Because there is a lot to know. And I appreciate that somebody asked this question, because I had an author today who came to me and he said, I published in 2012 and I really didn't have the time to market it. And now I'm kind of getting back into marketing. And I'm sort of like, well, first off, your book is old now. So it's harder, it's kind of hard to get it out there. And so, having a checklist is a really good idea. Not that any of you would make that mistake, but I'm just saying, books do have a shelf life. So, just keep that in mind. Where do we find the best themes in mystery? All I see are categories. So if you go to the left-hand side, so again, if you go to your Kindle store, so it's not in the print store, right? So if you go to your Kindle store and you look down the left-hand side, you will see those themes on the left-hand side. Where is a set place to get reviews for children's books? That's a great question, Betty. The answer to that is I don't know. Oh, and I know this isn't Betty, actually, because I think you emailed me, because the last time we had to cancel the Ask Penny and I was sick. Thank you for your advice. I appreciate that. There is no set place to get children's books reviews. I mean, you really have to do some research. You have to find children's book bloggers and maybe librarians who review books and things like that. So there's a lot to finding reviewers of any genre, really. This is part of the reason why finding reviewers is so difficult, because you've got to do your research. You've got to sort of pound the virtual pavement. Do you think the Kindle Scout program will affect optimization opportunities for those of us not using Amazon as a publisher? Will Amazon give preference in its algorithm to books published with them in order to increase revenue? I don't know. And Kindle Scout is a way it's sort of like American Idol for authors, right? So it's a way that Amazon kind of aggregates new authors to find, then you get votes on your book, and it's kind of like this whole hot or not thing for books, whether the book is, whether readers like to review it. So I don't know that it's going to change the algorithm. I don't know that it's had that much. I don't know that it's had legs long enough for us to really know that. Can you talk about Vine reviewers? How important are they? Vine reviewers are, we review the Amazon top reviewers, or we pitch them books. Some of them are Vine reviewers, some of them aren't. I think that Vine reviewers are very tricky to get to, so it also sort of depends on what your book is about. I know that the Amazon top reviewers tend to gravitate more towards nonfiction. That's had at least been my experience. But I don't know that necessarily answers your question. I think that, you have the Hall of Fame reviewers, you have the Vine reviewers, you have the top 10 Amazon reviewers. I mean, there's a lot of different, there are a lot of different levels to it. And it feels a little bit like, frankly, like Amazon has kind of launched all these different these different kind of pockets of reviewers, and there is no there's no real central thing. So you used to be able to pitch fine reviewers. Now that's become a little bit more exclusive. So how many good reviews should one have for a fiction novel before approaching a top Amazon reviewer? You know what? I'll tell you something. That's a really good question. So how many good reviews should an author have for a book before approaching a top Amazon reviewer? I don't know that you necessarily need to have good reviews on your book. So in other words, I don't know if you need to have, a dozen or 2 dozen, if that's going to necessarily sway the reviewer. Most reviewers look at topic, book cover, they look at your pitch. So, if you want to talk for a minute about how important your pitch is, I mean, it's one thing to find the reviewers, but it's a whole other thing to create a pitch that they're going to want to see. So I was coaching somebody the other day and they said, take a look at this pitch and see what you think. And the pitch was 5 paragraphs long. Well, that's way too long for any pitch, right? So I think that you really want to look at, so yes, it makes sense for a reviewer to want to pitch, to want to consider a book for review that's going to go somewhere, obviously. So the author isn't just saying, hey, I'm just sending this out to reviewers and kind of hoping for the best, right? So they want to know that the author is serious. I guess is probably a better way to put it. They want to know that the author is serious. Maybe you have more books out there, whatever, but it's really on the merit of the book. So if I'm pitching a top Amazon reviewer, I may be pitching a book that's a complete virgin. So a book that's up there with maybe 1 review, was just launched a few days ago. They understand that the review process takes time, but I know that this particular reviewer likes this genre. They reviewed in this genre. The book looks great. The book is terrific. And I think, that may evoke a consideration from them. So I think it's really more making sure that it's right for them. All right. So let me see what other questions. Yeah, Bianca, you're very welcome. Stephen asked, how do I find reviewers for my book? That's a really great question. So, it kind of goes back to, is there a central place to find bloggers? Is there a central place to find reviewers? And the answer to that is no, there really isn't. There are, there are certainly blog directories, and there are, you can buy books that have, I have some suggestions and links in the back of my How to Sell Books by the Truckload book. But at the end of the day, you still have to collect this list and you still have to pitch them. So I would, so there really isn't a central place. But what I would recommend that you do is look at your readership. So your readers are, the people who are reading your book and buying your book. This is why having a letter in your book, in the back of the book, is really important. Speaks to the reader. Don't put other books in that letter where you're just like, sell, sell, sell. Tell them, thank you so much for reading this book. We really love a review. Here's a link to the page on Amazon where you can review it. This tends to work really well, obviously, for ebooks. If you can build up a significant fan base with your readership, you can actually launch a book, the day that it comes off of pre-order or the day that it comes on Amazon, within 48 hours and get a significant number of reviews. Somebody asked about a pre-order, about whether or not you can get reviews on a pre-order. The short answer to that is no. The long answer to that is you can if you have a print version of the book on Amazon. So for example, if you have your ebook on pre-order, which I highly recommend, I think the pre-order feature is a great way to give some bounce to your book on Amazon. And then let's say you have the print version, which is already live on Amazon. You can, as long as the two are connected, you can have people review the print book, which will then also show up under the pre-order. So that's it's kind of it's sort of using the print book as a strategy for that. But here's what I really recommend. And I've tested this too. If you put your book up on pre-order, and I don't recommend long pre-orders, so I recommend shorter, like 2 or 3 weeks for your pre-order, and gift copies or give copies of this book, give copies of the ebook to your readers, and ask them to review it and ask them to post the review within the first 2 days of the book going live on Amazon, good or bad. So don't say, whoa, I just want a good review, good or bad. And when I've done this and I've launched, when a book launches within 48 hours, it's getting a significant number of reviews, the book actually holds on to a very low sales rank on Amazon and tends to stay there for a long period of time. So just kind of keep that in mind. All right. Let's see what other questions we have. Okay, so we've got a lot of questions. You guys are awesome, by the way. Thank you so much for all these great questions. And I'm trying to get to as many of them as I can. Alexander, I don't know the word wise. I don't know how to enable that, but thank you for that question. I appreciate that. The merchant, Trisha, I know you asked about the merchant on Amazon. I don't have a merchant account. I mean, I'm not set up that way. So let me see. What other questions do we have? All right, let me go into my calendar and see what other questions that we posted from people. Oh, this is a really good question. International Amazon reviews. So on Amazon, so Bianca writes on Amazon.de, I see reviews I got so far on Amazon.com, but on Amazon.com, I only see US reviews and non-international reviews. So what she's saying is that if she goes on to Amazon.de, and I would imagine it's probably Amazon.fr and Amazon.be and all Amazon all over the world, you will probably see any reviews that you have from the US Amazon site on those international sites. Now, this is something that Amazon was testing. They had it in beta for a long time because I asked them, and I know many other people asked them, and I asked a few people over at the KDP, Kindle Direct Publishing, I'm like, why? I'm getting all these reviews for my book in the US. Why aren't they transferring to the international pages? So they finally fixed that. But what she's saying is that the international reviews are not showing up on the US site. I would expect that to change this year. I don't know that for sure, but I know that they completed the beta testing of the international reviews to Amazon.com. So it'll go in reverse, but it doesn't. I don't know why it doesn't happen immediately. I think it should, but Amazon doesn't really ask me for my opinion. So, but that will be coming. And I think it's really good to know. And if those of you have not checked all those international sites, check them and take a look at what your sales rank is there. And by the way, you can also update and grab all your international Author Central pages if you haven't done so already. So France, you have a different page. In Germany, you have a different page. In China, you have a different page. So go in there and grab all your Author Central pages. And Bianca also asked, can I ask my reviewers to review on multiple Amazon sites? No. The short answer to that is no. The long answer is Amazon is really, I mean, I'm telling you right now, they are IP address focused. So if I have a reviewer from, let's say, Chicago, and they review on the France site and the Germany site, I can almost guarantee you that those reviews will not go live because Amazon store, I don't know why that is. In fact, I'm going to actually make a note to myself to post that question to Amazon as to why that is against terms of service, because that doesn't really make any sense to me. So I'm just making a note to myself, and we'll have the answer either on the blog, on our Author Marketing Experts blog, so you can check it, or we'll answer it in the next Ask Penny session. So I'm just making a note. All right, so we are at time, but I want to see if there are any more questions in here. Let me see. Okay, so one final question. For a book of true stories about sailing, adventure, or pets, how many pages should it be if I want to charge $2.99? So for $2.99, I think the book needs to be over 100 pages. If a book is 50 pages, you cannot really charge $2.99 unless it's just unless it's really an amazing book. So that would be my suggestion. Erica, I'm not sure what your question is. I know you wrote to me about the truckload book. Placing keywords into reviews. Oh. In the truckload book, I suggest lacing keywords into reviews. How do we do that? Well, if you have people that are reviewing your book on Amazon, I would just suggest, you may want to just suggest to them and say, here are some keywords that will help me, come up in search if you want to, if you can include them just to kind of be aware of it. I probably wouldn't do this with top Amazon reviewers because I think they're going to kind of go, well, thanks for telling me how to write my review. But I've done it before with reviewers. I've said, look, these are some keywords that will really help my my searchability. Friends and family, Erica, absolutely. You can definitely ask friends and family. And by the way, I just posted. So I had emailed Amazon about asking about their specific review guidelines. So if you want to, go in there and check it out, and it's up on our blog. So go in there and check it out because friends and family, Amazon frowns on. I don't know why, but they frown on having friends and family reviewing your book. I think because they're it's technically, it's not really against their terms of service, but it kind of is. Because they don't want people going on there saying that they just love the book. So they think that they're going to be, obviously predisposed to 5-star reviews. However, Amazon they have to figure out that this person is your friend or your family. And, I don't really know how they're going to do that. So they put it out there. They say, well, friends and family not allowed to review books. Look, I consider a lot of my industry people friends, and they will go on and review my books and I review their books. But I'm very, we're all very ethical about it. Like if there's something that we didn't like in it, we'll mention that. So it's not just 5-star, I loved everything, and I think that's where Amazon has a problem with it. Okay, so we're going to end this right now. We have our next call. I don't have the date of the next call. I don't have it in my calendar, but we'll let you know. I will follow up with an email with a link to the class. So if you wanted to watch it again. And I thank you all so much for attending. I really appreciate this. We had an amazing turnout today. So thank you so much. Have a great weekend, guys. I hope that this was helpful for you. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.